Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me. And here we go once again. This time we're going to play around and see if we can't work on the avatars a little bit more. I started working on it this morning. It just kind of got deep enthralled in it, but working on improving the way they switch animations if you change them. Working on how we can improve their movement so that everything works real smooth and comfortable, and seeing if we can't make it where it's a little more user-friendly for adjusting the speeds and controls of the avatars. So I'm going to dig in on that section today and see how well we can do on it. There's a couple other things that I have in mind that I might go towards depending on our time and how much effort we have to put into adjusting the speeds and different things that we want to do. But based on that, we'll see what we can do. Okay, so getting started. Go over to the code page and let's start out with some basics. I'm going to leave this scene up here. Just so you know, a couple things that I did today is, first of all, when the focus is on, I've improved it so now that it highlights the different parts as you move over them. Then if you right click them, of course, it chooses them so you can edit it. But just wanted to improve a little bit on how that worked, and I was able to take out some other controls that weren't needed anymore from some changes that we made recently. And then, just a handful of different things. The other one is if I go in here and I edit my avatar and I choose animations, one of the things that was happening before, if I switch from here's just a default walk, and when I switch that now from that to, let's say Beast Walk, before it would completely reload your avatar. Now, I've hot swapped it out and was able to switch without having to completely reload your avatar. So we're getting better. We're getting a lot nicer. We have the happy walk, and look, within a couple seconds I'm doing the happy walk. It works really fast and very smooth now, which makes it a lot better for the controls. And also changing them from one to another. This is kind of a precursor though, because what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to dynamically add and remove animations from your character when needed. So if you, for example, walked onto a soccer field, you would gain all these extra abilities to do, dribble the ball with your feet, and you'd be able to, or if you're a goalie, you'd be able to block the ball. It'll include whatever animations you need whenever you need them. One of the things that this is leading towards also is right now we stand and we can walk around and we can turn and do, a bunch of different things like that. But one of the things we don't really have in here, in fact, see, I've already lost the chair. That's kind of funny. There it is. If you walk too far away from it, it only loads from a certain distance. So we may have to refresh the page a couple times while we're doing with it. I don't want the chair to work from everywhere in the scene. So that's basically what it has right now. Okay, so the one thing is, let's say you come across a chair. You should be able to, when you're just browsing, click on the chair and he walks over and then sits down on it. So it would need additional animations, one for going from standing up to sitting down, and also walk to the position, right in front of it, turn around if he's not facing it, or back to it, and then sit down. Then once he's in a sitting pose, we need to go to some type of sitting idle animation and stuff. So there's a handful of different pieces that come into play. Now, just because you walk near a chair, I can have it where when you get within a certain radius of it, then we know we're going to need the possibility to sit down. And if you walked away, we would know that you don't need those animations anymore, and you can actually get rid of them if you choose to, if you need to. But that's the kind of stuff that I want to be able to do. So it's not just a matter of, loading for sitting, but it could be, let's say you're going to play a game of golf, or you're going to play a game of bowling, or whatever it is. When you walk over towards it, your body should pick up those extra animations, even while you're walking. And then all of a sudden you get there and you can throw the ball, for example, or you can pick up a ball. Whatever it is, those animations should be able to add to what you're doing. So So that's kind of one of the functionality and features that I'd like to work on a little bit here. The other piece is like right now. If I hold down the mouse button and I can turn to the left, I can turn to the right just by going near the edges of the screen. I can go up and down, but they're not really intuitive. It's also not as smooth as I move my mouse. So most of the time I move it and then I'm kind of wandering between up and down and sideways. It's kind of like it needs improvement. And I think I need to do a couple things with this. First of all, based on how far you are from the center of the screen or your starting position of where you started to move it maybe, I don't know. But I think I need to get into some like exponential movement. So if I go close to the center of the screen, you move slightly. If you go farther, maybe it moves faster around a circle. If you go to the edge of the screen, then he practically spins. We need some extra flow like that. Right now, even with the cursor keys, it'll turn, and it's kind of okay, but it's not great. So based on these different things, we have a setting here, and I put it here before I had done a lot more work on this. So we have a walk speed and we have a rotation speed, but just to let you know, I don't know how much they really affect it. I guess with having a chair in the scene, it kind of helps because we can walk past it just to know how fast he's actually walking. So he's going about at that speed right now. And watch this. If I go, we're going to find out if this is even hooked up. I'm going to make it go as fast as it can possibly go. And when I walk past, didn't look any different to me. I don't know about you, but here I can hold down the shift key and it makes a little difference. But, oh, it even moved it back to normal. Let me guess, it was still selected or something? I don't know. Let's make sure it's not just that. But kind of looks the same speed to me no matter what I do. So there's a couple pieces onto here. Yeah. Hello. So there's a couple pieces attached to this. One of them is I don't think this walk speed is even hooked up into the process that tells it how fast to walk. But there's two things. There is the physical animation speed and how fast the animation is running. And then there is on the other side of that, there is the speed at which it moves across the ground. The animation technically is walking in place and we're moving it forward. Okay, so here we go. The other one, pan and rotation. Okay, when I turn this right now, as you can see, when the chair's in the scene, you can really see how it's basically moving. And you know what, I'm going to do it with the arrow keys for now, just so we can take the mouse out of play for a second. But see how I can go from there, and I can turn it back the other way. And it does have an easing function. So when you first push the button, it doesn't like automatically take off at full speed. So it does ease into moving to the speed. So that part I understand. But once it's at full speed, I think we could have it running a lot smoother. So that's the pan and rotation. Let's see if this is even hooked up. I may have taken it off when I was working with the avatars and switching everything over. And so now if I turn, that doesn't feel like it's any faster than what I was turning at. Okay, so these numbers right now, what they're doing is not in play, and we're going to fix that. We're going to make it where you can adjust them and make it comfortable for how fast you want them to move. So let's get busy here. First things first, I'm going to track down, I know where these are in the code, but let's look at the actual form and see what we're setting when we move the form. And then we're going to take that variable and see what we can do with it. So there's a couple different directions we'll have here. Let's start with the form itself is basically a form. It's menus, sorry. It's the menu down here, and we have some camera stuff, which another day, we're going to spend a whole day just on camera stuff and see if we can expand the cameras, get the other cameras for all the different functions it does. And okay, so avatar settings, those are add colors and everything. Ooh, that would be something related to avatar settings. Maybe I need to move where that's at eventually, but or even a link to it within there so you can go right to it and change the speed of your avatars. That'd probably be a smart thing to do. Okay, so we have movement speed, and this is the section we're doing. When you move this, okay, so the input is right here. We're telling it minimum 0.1 and max is 1, value 0.5. We may play around with those values and everything else because right now they're actually meaningless. And then we'll change walk speed. That's the function we want to find. And I'm going to just put an equal sign after it so we only find the function. I don't need if anything else has this. And let's see where we're at. Okay. I'm going to slide that down here so we're working with two files next to each other. Kind of becomes a little more convenient. And what did I do? All I'm doing here is I'm setting a variable, a global variable, and then I set it as a cookie so that when you come back to the scene, it reloads it and uses it. Okay. And then the third part we need, I can tell you already, I don't even have to search for this one. At the bottom of the core page happens to be the actual avatar movements. Now, there's a couple pieces here. The second to last function from the bottom is when you tell it to move the avatar. There's like 3 functions involved here. So when you tell it move avatar, it tells it what avatar and what key's been pressed or whatever type of function it's currently running in. And keys pressed can be more than one. It can be an array of values. So, for example, I can be going forward and to the right at the same time, or forward and left, or backwards and right, backwards and left. I can strafe and go forward. It allows multiple commands. So by doing multiple commands, we tell it what avatar and which commands are being done, and then we weight those commands based on the amount of time they've been active. So, okay, we don't have an on jump yet, but what happens is we have this keys pressed, and what we're using there, keys pressed and the letter, the number that it is, basically that is identifying the source ASCII code for the key. So from different ones, we tell it, okay, arrow forward or W for forward, and we do this. Also, there's one that has this 1038. I actually made up those numbers, and some of these are being used. Some of these, like the 1038s, it's like 38, which is your forward W command, and then arrow forward, by the way, arrow forward. So 38, and then I have this one, which 1038, I just added 1,000 to it, and I made that be the key that it gives when you move the mouse scroll wheel forward. So when you see the different 1038 and then 2038 means you're holding, it's the same thing, it's doing an on run. So basically you're doing the same thing as a shift and walk forward at the same time. And I'm trying to like lock these into where the mouse can do them also. That'll give us a little bit more control. So I have some of this stuff done, but we're going to make it run a lot better for everybody and make it where you can adjust it for your comfort zone. So we'll set the new defaults. We'll have some fun with this. We'll get them all into place here. And once it decides these move events, it takes the keys pressed, which come from our input mostly. In fact, it all comes from our input file. I can show you that real quick. In the input file, what we're doing is we are, for example, there's a touch move. There are, when you touch down and then you move, let's see, there's touch timers. Okay, key press move. This is where, as for example, you touch and you move up, or you touch when you release. There's different things, but it tells it which key is equivalent to what you've just done. Touch moving will automatically catch some of those things, and it's replacing whatever keys with different keys. It'll replace like running to walking or walking to running, and it depends how close you are to the center of the screen with your mouse movements, for example. I've done some of this legwork and just got it to work, but we're going to clean that up. So, and then there's also mouse keys, there's also mouse movements, mouse down, there's mouse up, which obviously have the same thing as a key up with your touch upward strokes. And then we have on scroll, which comes to here, determines how far, and then decides equivalent of which button you've pressed based on the way you're scrolling it and the speed. So we're doing some different things there. We're setting some things. We'll come back to that because I don't think those are in play at the moment. We're not actually telling them. We're just telling them that you push the button to go that way. Okay, so that kind of gives us some basics of how the movement comes about. Then we convert those into, based on the keys that are pushed, numbers-wise, we convert that into their various move events. And from there, we set this array of all the move events, and then we set the avatar movement based on those move events. So this is the translation part. The move events actually get used directly. This set avatar movement happens directly when it's some other avatar in your scene where yours takes the keystrokes and then translates them. So one way or another, you're getting the exact same thing. One is yours moving, the other is the other avatars in your scene moving for the multiplayer. Okay, set avatar movement. What we do in here is we go through the various animations, find out which ones are running, and if they're in the current move events array, then we tell it what speed to go, and we adjust that weight, which the weight, one is working full out with the one animation. Anything less than that, 0 is completely stopped on that animation. And we do a balance and kind of a merge of multiple events and their weights. So we divide the weight by how many items are in this move events at the time. So if you have, for example, you're going forward and to the right, we balance them out and do both of them at 50%. So that'd be 0.5 weight. And that's what this is all doing, is it's balancing out and it's giving it the different weights per item. Once we have the animations working with the different weights, then we have to translate per weight per item. If that particular item, which is the key of what it is, for example, on walk, we look it up and we say, oh, if they're walking, then here's the stride size, here's the move space, the direction that they're going. We check to see if there's a stair in front of them, and we may have to do extra things with the stairs so that they can actually move in an upward direction or not have as much gravity so they can make it upstairs. There's some different things we do based on the movement, and then we finally say avatar, move with collisions, and we tell it to move to that location. So at one point we're having the animation sit there and make it look like he's walking, and then we actually move him at a pace that makes it feel like he's walking in that same direction. So this right here, we've used certain consonants that actually set what a walk would normally be. Then, for example, walk backwards. On walk backwards, we tell it how fast backwards feels right. And what's that? Ass backwards. I didn't say ass backwards. Fast backwards. Sorry.
No, you didn't say
God. Oh, okay. I was going to say, I didn't say that. Now I did. I said it in qualifying my own not saying it. Okay, sorry about that, everybody out there. Okay, so, in fact, notice that I knew that I took it out of here when I calculated certain things, and I actually put the walk speed sitting next to it. So for now, we have not implemented the walk speed with the actual item yet. But there's actually two pieces, because the walk speed is going to affect that, and then it also affects the speed of the actual running animation. So we're setting a weight of how much of that animation we're running, 1 being on, 0 being off, and any degree in between. And then we can also implement the speed of the animation that's running so that it feels right across the ground as we go. So we'll play around with a couple of those things and see what we come up with. Another thing I want to show you is that, like, for example, on walk, we take this number that I basically tested and came up with, which was a -15. That's our consonant to make on walk feel right. Then from there, I do the weight of the animation that is currently running. So if he's walking half, it will be 0.5. Otherwise, it'll be 1 for full out walking. Excuse me. And then we divide that by the number of frames per second because this actually happens on every frame. So when we divide it by frames per second, that's telling us that if one person's computer is working really fast and you're getting 60 frames per second, then you get another person who's running 24 frames per second. When you walk across the screen, you'll get to the same place at the same point in time because I made the frames per second an actual factor in working, in walking and timing everything with each other. So then we take this stride, which is this, complement of all these different pieces, and then we calculate how far it moved in this one increment, one frame, then what direction it was going, and we use that direction to check using a ray. We draw a line directly in front of the feet, which is the box that sits, invisible box that sits underneath your avatar. It is the location of your avatar. I use a ray to point in front of it in the direction you are currently facing, and I want to see if it hits any object. If it hits an object, we check what mesh that is, we check the distance, and if the distance is less than 2, which means about a foot away from you, then we change the move command. And what we're actually changing is, in the first command, we have gravity on. So we have a negative, normally 9.8 by default, and you can change that in your settings. Otherwise, I set it to 0, which makes it less resistance to go upstairs. That doesn't mean it stops it from going upstairs. When it bumps the step, it has a natural ability to try to lift slightly on the bump. And by having 0 gravity for that frame, it actually is able to walk up the stair without any trouble. When I didn't do that, we actually had problems where even the smallest of steps, it would walk up on it and it would run into it and not get up the stair. If you had gravity less, it would kind of go over it. If you made the step a little too low or a little too high, it just gave all kinds of random results. The other thing is, let's say you're doing a strife move. I check the ray on the side of you. So you need to know, are you running up on something next to you and it needs to go over it on a side angle? So by doing this direction and then ray, those two pieces put together can tell us if we're about to run into something on our level. And this does work on all the landscaping. So if you have a hill or anything like that, and it basically helps us, it's a little helper to make sure the current move for one frame distance can actually move up a little bit or something as necessary. And then the second it doesn't detect anything next to you or in front of you, the direction you're heading, then gravity kicks back on full speed, and even if it bumps you up a little higher, you'll kind of just ride it out and go right up that area. So that accounts for it. So that's kind of the breakdown of an on-walk. Now, every one of these on-run, all of these have the same idea. They detect things that are up to 50 away just so it knows it's coming. We could detect, less. We don't have to be that close just to, do things, because we're only checking to see if the distance is a 2. I went to 50 because I was actually scouting out things in my scene, how far away they are. But I guess we can move that closer at some point. Okay, so then the walk speed. Here we go. Now the walk speed, ideal walk speed in mid-sentence or mid-space should be a 1. And then as we increase it, it basically gets multiplied by this to find out exactly what it becomes, what we need it to be. So I'm going to start by putting this in here, and I'm going to say times whatever the walk speed is. Now, first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to change in the menu the way that the walk speed works. And we're going to have to change the step, and we're going to have to change the increment. So first of all, default value, we're going to set that as 1. We're going to set minimum range at 0.1's not bad. And max, we could say, well, we could keep it to that kind of standard and do 1.9. That'll make 1 be directly in the middle of the two. We can go with a 0.01 adjustment. That gives us a lot of leadway of where it goes. Value always ends up positive, so we should be in some pretty good shape with that. And that makes it where it almost doubles in speed and almost stops. But it doesn't quite stop, so we always have some type of movement in there. And with that, let's first test out a couple things and see what we get when we try to do this. Okay, unexpected token. What did I miss already? Basic molds, JavaScript, line 5. Oh, that was something else I was working on before we came on here. Oh, yeah, I was going to put something else in there. Oh, I know what it was. I was going to check to see if the user is in admin mode or not. There's a quick, easy way to get that. Let me go to input. I know I used it about a dozen times in here. Yep. If my variable equals admin view, then we're in admin mode. Yeah, this was something I was fixing for something else. Okay, we'll just put that in place so we don't break our code. And now we should be able to load the page. Okay. Is my avatar coming in? There he is. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go with movement speed, and we're going to go to halfway, which, you know what, the first thing we need to do is when we change our movement speed, let's have it spill it out on the screen so we know what speed we went to. That'll give us a little bit of a guideline of how well it's doing. Yeah. And we will say walk speed equals, it's a lot better if we know what speed we're actually setting it to, and then we can kind of compensate it from that. It's always good to know. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do, since we're working mostly with walking forward, let's see, how far can we go before that chair disappears? Let's go to right there, and I'm going to do something that makes this real easy. Set a starting position, use current position. Great interface for that. Boom. Now we're going to start looking that far away from the chair every time we start. And then next thing we're going to do is movement speed. We're going to move our walk speed just so that we can see what it's actually hitting. There it is. 1.07. That's not bad. Let's go to there. 0.97. 98. 99. Okay, 102. Yeah, like I can hit that perfectly on 97. Okay, there we are. 1. Yay, we hit it. Okay, now I'm going to use the cursors because I want to be very consistent on how I click the button, or and if I'm using the scroll wheel on the mouse, then we can actually get a little different results. So let's roll it forward, and why is the walk speed changing? Okay, that's something else we have to fix. The walk speed is a variable that determines how fast we're going to move. So let's find out, first of all, everywhere we used it, and it should not be changing the walk speed as I walk. That should be something that's more of a, well, let's find that out first, actually. What's calling change walk speed? Because oh, I know what I did. Okay, never mind. Let's fix this. Let's go to right about there. That's close enough to 0.99. We'll accept that. I need to click the scene so that I do not have this highlighted, because what's happening is if you leave it highlighted, then basically, we can fix that. What'll happen is, as I was walking forward with the arrow key, it was actually moving our crossbar. There's another way I can do that, and it'll keep others from testing it and doing the same problem. If I go in here, and what we're going to do is change walk speed on change, and then we're going to say this dot blur. That should tell it to not keep that focused on after it's been released, the click. That way we don't have to worry about it every single time, and we should get some type of different results. So once I move it now, it should blur it, which means it's no longer selected, because you're going to click on it when you select it again anyway, so it's not like it needs to stay selected. Okay, we're getting our avatar, and there he is. Let's do this. And movement speed, and just to do it, we're going to move that just a touch, and now I should be able to walk without, it's not affecting it. Okay, so this is our normal, we're moving forward speed, and that's what we get. Now I want to see if, starting this again, okay, let's go a little bit forward right till we get about the same place, and now I want to see an extreme case and see if 1.9 walk speed. I think I'm getting there a lot faster, and that's the speed across the ground. Notice the animation speed didn't change. We're gonna work on that at a later time or afterwards, but let's get to where that just about disappears. Okay, there we go. Brought the chair back in, and just to prove the point, we're going to go to its slowest setting, and now when I walk forward, see how critical we can really tell that he's like prancing. He's practically moonwalking, and I'd say he's almost going backwards. So yes, so we can adjust something to that speed. Is there a real reason to go that speed? I don't know. It seems like we're going to more likely want faster speeds than slower speeds at any point in time. But I guess we have the ability to do it. So if somebody wants to move slow, they're going to be able to set their stuff slow. Like I said, animation speed will follow. Okay, so we do have control, and it is controlling the distance at what we travel. Now, the next part. There actually is, on the, if I get this in the right place, under the core, on walk, we have the weight of this item, and we already know what item it's running, so we can actually, I don't want to get involved in what it changes and how up here, because these are doing increments as it goes. But what I'd like to do is, the weight already determines starting slow and moving into full speed. So we don't have to affect the weight of a particular animation. But when we create these animations, let me go to where we create them. Okay, I don't have it open. That's fine. We'll get the file. When we create them and open them, let's start with the basic avatars. And what we do is we are selecting the animations right here. We're loading up the different animations. And notice it says begin weighted animation, and what we have a speed ratio. The speed ratio is, in most cases, 1, because it's running right at the set speed of the animation as it is by default. But we can actually change that and adjust it in our animations and tell it what we want it to be. Now, based on that number, we got to be careful here, because let's say somebody sets the speed ratio to 2, then if I go in there and say I'm adjusting it and go from 1 to whatever, I'm not actually working with the real default number that it should have had with it. I got to be careful. It's a slippery slope. Okay, so this will be a factor of the speed ratio. Yeah, we're gonna play around with taking the current speed ratio and multiplying it times. Well, see, the current speed ratio is going to change as we go. We got to be so careful here, or we're going to end up just not using their original values at all. Okay, but it's better to at least put them in here and see what it does than it is to not. So we're going to start with using them. Huh?
I'll get the buzzer.
Oh, thank you. Okay. The part about this is I think I have, is this weighted animations? No, that's the skeleton. And create animation range. No, that's not the stuff I'm doing right now. Okay. Animations, weighted animations. I opened this for a reason. I knew it was here. So we have speed ratio. It's spelled this way. And once we have the animation created, I think we can change the speed ratio as we go. So to test that theory, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to slide in the animation by name of what it's doing. Okay, speed ratio kind of reminds me of, hey, go speed racer. No. Okay, and we're going to take this part here where we ran the running animation and we told it what to do. I'm going to give myself a little bit of space here to work with it. And let me just put the word speed ratio in here for a minute. First thing we're going to do is find out if this place, which is my running on walk event, if speed ratio can equal our walk speed. And see if that speeds up and slows down our event based on what we're doing. If that doesn't error out, because this is an animatable opposed to the animation. There's two different places, but I believe the animatable, you can set the speed ratio. So we're going to give that a shot and see if it changes on the fly. It's one thing to test. First of all, we'll check and see, does it give any errors when I try to walk forward, because that'll test if the speed ratio variables are all correct. And here we go. And we're walking and I don't see any errors, and he seems to be walking at a normal pace. I kind of like this walk that we're using because he swings his arms and we can really see it from the side if it's running the same speed or not. So from here, we're going to take this and on the fly, movement speed, we're going to double it to almost double it. And now, see, oh, look at the speed. Oh, yes, we did get the speed of the animation. He picked it right up. So we do have control that way. Yes, that's a good sign. Going in, I did not know if that was going to work or not. Just thought I'd give it a try. It was something I read. So it's always good to know that it works the way you expect it to. Man, I'm moving fast now, too. Okay, so with that, we should be able to take this, and now we're really going to show what our animation does. Yeah, look at him going in slow-mo animation. See, we're actually moving across the ground faster than the animation's running. Isn't that funny? I think the closer we are to the real thing, the less you notice on slow or fast speeds. But in this case, I'm not too worried about it. I don't think anybody's ever going to use it at that speed. Do you want to know what I think is going to be realistic? I think if we go to, there we go, 0.5 speed, this would be, I'm strolling and I'm kind of casual and I'm still getting some distance done and I'm walking. The distance isn't exactly matching up with the speed of the animation, but let's see. We could, if we wanted to make that where people could really, here's where I'm going. If in the future people want to be able to create their own avatars and set their own animations and everything else, they should be able to time their own animation over ground, which would mean we'd have the walk speed and then the animation, the walking animation speed as two separate variables so that you could adjust it. So if the animation is going too fast or slow, you could compensate it. And then the walk speed itself could be basically the speed that you're moving over ground. So walk travel speed versus walk animation speed. That would probably be the ideal way to do it, because then we can completely match to make sure that, hey, if you have, let's say, a dragon or dinosaur or something and you're walking over the ground, then when you take a step, you're not sliding on the ground like this thing is necessarily doing. We could actually adjust those as two separate items. So to do that, let's see what we can do. I think that's a fair part. So these factors, these constants that I came up with, those still may play a factor, and we still may be adjusting certain things based on that. Because, let's see, for example, otherwise it could be a ratio of the walk speed. Then we have a better chance of being right on. Because like right now, we're taking negative 15 times the walk speed. That's how much we're speeding it up. Well, it is a factor right now. But I didn't do it when I did it for the speed ratio. But if I multiply that times 15, no, that's not going to do it. It would have to be like 1/15 of a 1/1500th of a stride to make it effective. No, they're two different things. This one's how far you're moving. This one's how fast your animation is playing. Those are going to be two different things. Let me see. Well, actually, let me check how often we use this particular piece. And we use it mostly in the strides. The input, that is setting it here, but you know something, we don't use rolled anymore, so we're actually not even using that value. Okay, if we may use it for a calculation, but we're not using it for walk speed. Isn't needed here. Walk speed. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not using it in a place that actually has a calculation, because we're going to tweak them all by the time we get done doing what we're doing. Those are all remarked out. That's the one we're using currently. We're good on those. Walk speed times 3 for rolled. Oh, it's not even being used. Okay, we're going to make sure we're going to set walk speed without that there, just so that we don't... When I do the space bar jumping functionality and stuff, when I throw that back in there, I've got to get the animation for that in place and everything, but we're going to get that in place. That's just not today. And then here, we're setting the walk speed, which is all fine. That's loading the user setting based on the cookie that it used. Okay, so we're good on that one. And that's the only place we're actually using it. So we are changing the walking speed. Okay, we're in good shape. We load it from the cookie, we change it when you move the slider, and then that's it. And we have the change rotation speed. Okay, so we have both of these in the same place here. We're going to follow that same pattern, and we're going to create another speed, and it's going to be the walk animation speed. To do that, we want to first get to our constructor, which names out our JavaScript class, and if you'll look, we have The walk speed is right. Walk speed is here, and rotation speed is right next to it. We're going to set that to 1 by default since we're changing what it actually means now. And we're going to add another one called walk animation speed. Okay, and we'll do the rotation one when we get to it. We'll do them one at a time and see if we can't make those coincide and do something similar to what we're doing for this. But as you can tell, rotation speed 1000 has nothing to do with what we're actually going to do, so we'll work on all those numbers and the constants and everything else. As we go through this, we're going to make sure that they get what they're supposed to have. The first thing I'm going to do is walk animation speed, and I'm going to put that into our formulas here. Scroll down. It is on walk command, which is the one we're currently working with, and it is going to be the speed ratio is the walk animation speed. I'm going to run them. I'm going to just prove that they're working as 2 different speeds right now, and that it is running as 1. First, we're going to test movement speed. We're at 0.5. We can even go slower. It's fine with me. And we're going to notice the speed of the animation is the same, even though we're moving slow forward. Same thing if I go fast. Animation speed is the same, and we're moving very fast forward. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to change and add another piece into the menu. Okay, we have this section right here. We're going to make a copy of that, and we're going to do a little bit of stuff here. First of all, menu walk speed, that's all fine. Which one sounds like it should come first? The distance it's traveling or the animation speed? Let's do the walk animation speed on top, and we're going to change walk animation speed and walk. Okay, let me just get this word in here. How many times do I have to say it over and over again before I just copy and paste it? And walk animation speed. Okay, now we have the range, we have the setup, the same kind of design we did before. We'll set the values on load, so that won't be an issue. We need a function for this. Let's go here, and this one's going to be, copy that, and add it there. Then we're going to say walk animation speed, and walk animation speed is going to be the new cookie. Animation speed and walk animation speed. Okay, walk. How many times do I say that before I drive myself nuts? Walk animation speed, there we go. Copy that there. And now we have a tool where we can change this variable. Oops, one more time. There we go. Okay, so we can change this variable. It automatically saves a cookie, so we can reload it in afterwards, but for now, we're going to test that and find out how well that works. We'll put another note, just so we do it, on here. This one is walk animation speed, walk distance traveled. So they can do whatever they want with that. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, walk distance travel, walk animation speed, and walk distance travel. That kind of gives us the two different breakdowns of which one it's going to do. Now we'll load that back up. Okay, let's get our function out here, movement speed. We now have two different pieces. Distance traveled, we're going to set that to 0.97. That's close enough to 1. And then we are going to test this out by slowing down the animation speed and seeing if it still moves forward. Yep, we're still moving in a good distance and we're moving slow. Now I want to move really fast animation, and it's not moving very far forward. It's moving normal. And now I want to do the clear opposite, which we're going to back up first. And we're going to travel a huge distance. I'm going to set that back to around middle. And notice how the ground is sliding under his feet. Okay. Then, same concept. If I change the walk distance to go very small, but he's moving fast, we should get, there we go. And now, see what can happen is we can actually have him walk and go, it's a little, moving a little faster than the distance. Slow down the distance a touch and see. That's not bad. But see, it's adjustable now. So they can tweak it and get it to exactly what they feel looks natural and normal. Oh, there is one thing I need to do. Let's see if it makes any difference. Let's go to core. The speed ratio. Oh no, we're already doing the weight. So the weight is turning it off and on slowly based on that. So then we're using a breakdown of this animation speed on top of the speed ratio. Okay, we should be good. Okay, and definitely. And how much time? Yeah, I spend at least 2 hours. I tend to program a lot more hours than that. I'm a I'm a programming addict. I think once you get into the programming, I think you kind of live and breathe it after a while. And even when you're not doing it, your brain is always thinking, hey, what can I do next? Or what should I have done different? Or how can I make this work? Or whatever it takes. But that's, kind of the deal. You tend to always do it. Okay, and let's see. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Come on, there it goes. And I'm really batting 1,000. I'm clicking the wrong things. There we go. Okay, so we're in here now. We have the ability to work with the distance traveled and make fine-tuning adjustments to it, and the animation speed so that they can match. And when we do it, it takes effect immediately. That's not bad. But it also allows people to get pretty comfortable with where they set things and how fast they like them to move. Okay, that is kind of cool. because I find myself on I tend to find myself sitting here holding down shift the whole time and running and walking. So now if I'm doing the different moves, I can actually set them to where I don't have to hold down shift. It'll I can go to a run, of course, but my normal walking speed is fairly decent and I tend to move pretty good with it. That's the whole point of what I just did. So checking out that same thing, in that same ratio, let's change up some of these other items and make sure that everything kind of plays nice with those same settings. I really don't want to make it where somebody has an adjustment for every single animation. I don't want to do something like that necessarily yet. If later on down the road somebody creates a plugin that does it, that's awesome. I don't see any need that I need to go to that level at this point. Okay, and so what I want to do is I have this particular line, and the first thing I'm going to do is on weight. We don't need to change on weight because that's standing still. Rotate up and down, those are camera views. They're not necessarily changing the animation speed. We'll play around with those afterwards because I'm not sure it's going to be affected by what we're actually doing. So we have walk, then we have on run, which we'll take and put here, and we'll use the animation speed. And then we have the backwards. And on run backwards. On turn left, right, both of those are actually not a moving function. It's a turning, rotating function. So we're going to adjust those separately. That's part of moving the mouse or actually turning your screen left or right. So we'll adjust those separately. That's the rotation speeds we're dealing with. So we'll get those in there, but we do have strafe and all the running strafes and walking strafes and getting all those pieces in place. And they do have an animation speed tied to that. We're doing pretty good with that. Okay, so now what I should be able to do is based on the changes that I just did and the speed changes I just did, we should see a difference if I go to movement speed and first come in here and now walking forward and also walking backwards. If I speed up the animation and I speed up the distance traveled, now I should get that's faster, and we also have it faster backwards. So that did work fairly nice. I may even say, hey, I want to travel a little bit more distance when I go backwards, and here we go. That is doing pretty decent. It's not like his feet are sliding too much on the ground. And this is how fast we're moving forward. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so we have those two pieces in place for forward and backwards. And there was one more piece we need to do for that, and that is when we do this forward and backwards movement, the other part that ties to it is right here. What is this stuff doing? That is, that's setting the starting values. Okay, so let's set the starting value of the walk speed. I was just checking some of my pieces here. Walk animation speed, walk animation speed, and here we go. Walk animation speed. Now the other part is the speed when we start. There's one of these lines somewhere here that said get cookie. No, come on. It's all setting the cookie. Change stop. Load user settings. That's the word I was looking for. We have the walk speed that gets read in here, and it sets the local walk speed in the app, the global variable, and it comes from the cookies. So we're going to use that same thing, and we're going to make it walk animation speed, walk animation speed, walk animation speed. There it is, and that one's with a cap. We're good to go on those. Now it brought it into the scene, and we have it in place. Okay, now that we've done that one, the next one is, we'll get back to those. The next one is the rotation speed. We're not going to do up and down yet. We're going to do left and right. And we're going to see if we can't make these ones a little bit, kind of do the same thing. We want to have an animation rotation speed, and then we want to have a rotation distance that we're turning. That'll make it a lot friendlier when we, set up the controls and stuff. So we have on turn left, on turn right, and we also have rotation. Times 40%. Get radians of this, which we're running in seconds. Okay, so we are not pulling in the rotation speed at all on these commands, and that's where we're going to concentrate for the moment. First things first, we have, now those are not, Okay, if I go to the constructor, we have rotation speed, find, and I'm going to find in files, and we're going to find WTW dot. That'll be my class of it, and so we don't end up with a bunch of Babylon rotation speed issues or settings. Okay, from here, we're setting it at 1,000. That's not what I'm going to do. We're going to make it be a 1 by default, because then 1 means we're not affecting it at all. Run it at its natural state. That's kind of the proposed method of using here. This particular one, what is this doing? I'm not even using that. See, that's angular sensitivity of the camera. Okay, we are going to put that back. We'll adjust that one in a minute, but that's not the one I want. Rotation speed, that's the camera one. We want to create a whole nother one, and it's going to be avatar rotation speed, and we're going to call it turn speed, because it's the avatar's turning distance and speed that we're working with. Yeah, that's getting it. That's getting it. Okay, we'll call it turn. Let's get 2 values up here. Turn speed and turn animation speed. This will help us a lot, I think. Go to the commons section, load user settings, and we're going to load turn speed and turn animation speed. That will give us those 2 values. Copy that here, 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 and here. And then turn animation speed will be here, 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 and here, and change that word right there. And now we have those values. That will read them in. Next, I'm just gonna do this the simple way. By selecting all of the walk animation speed, it'll give me the locations where we're working with it. I'm going to... We will create 2 more rows, and this will be... We'll end up giving it an icon. I'm not worried about that just yet, but it'll be turn. And turn animation speed. Yeah. Okay. Which means change turn, animation speed, and finally it has turn, animation speed there, and finally same thing for this one. It is turn speed and turn speed, rotation traveled, turn rotation traveled, turn speed. Okay, so we have those in here, and finally we will go back in here and no, that's not the right place. Here we go. We have change animation speed and we have change rotation speed. Now we're going to have change turn speed, and we will do that. Turn to everything, turn, turns. We're going to do that one, that one, that one, that one. Turn, and here we go once again. Turn there. Walking animation speed, set cookie. That would be turn animation speed. Okay, and did I get them all? Okay, got all those, and finally this one. Turn. Oh. Nope, wrong one. It is not turn walking speed, it is change turn speed. Get rid of the word walk. Getting rid of the word walk. So walk speed becomes turn speed. Copy that there, there, there. And finally, turn speed. Okay, that should get us all of that. This should get us turn speed. I typed that correct. Turn animation speed. We're good on all those. That's a good sign. I know there were places below that where we set the initial values. Here they are. We did walk speed and animation speed, but we did not get the turn versions of that. We want to make sure that we set the tabs on the form to their correct values, which are going to be this and this. Turn animation speed, and here we go. Turn speed there. And here we go. Okay, so did a whole bunch of pieces in a whole bunch of places. And what we came up with is rotation, walk, turn, speed. Okay, so we have the different things now, and now we can start applying them to what we're doing, which are in the core. Let me get that back down to where we need it. And we're looking at turn left, turn right, up and down. Okay. First thing we're going to do is take it in here and say WTW turn speed in this function. Copy that, and we're going to do that on all 4 of these items. Now the turn speed is affected by what we do on that particular piece. That is the rotation. Let me make sure I did that right. Turn speed is the turn rotation traveled opposed to turn animation speed. Okay. Those are avatar related items, and we're fine with that. We'll get to this last one here afterwards and see what we need to do with that, because it's actually panning the upward and down rotation view of how fast it moves when you move your mouse to the different sides. So we'll see how we can control that with the mouse sensitivity and move the camera angle at the same speed or what have you. We'll work with that one. For now, let's see if we have some stuff working here. Loading this up. And click here. We have movement speed. Now we have turn animation speed and turn rotation traveled. Let's first test this at 111. See how we're kind of just spinning around at this speed right now. That's how fast we're going, to there, to there, to there. Now what I want to do is turn rotation traveled. We're going to double it. Now we're really, you can tell. You can tell we're definitely turning a lot faster now. See, some of these I almost feel like I want to go even faster. We'll see. We'll see. That's not too bad, because you are able to turn pretty fluent now. We could adjust since we can adjust it down so far, we could adjust middle point to make sure that it works really good. Just to test it, see how this barely turns. We have full control now. So going back to around 1, and we can go pretty decent. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. I don't like where that is. Let's see if we can't speed up middle so that when we go in the middle, we have a lot more faster and a lot more slower to do it. Okay, and okay. So what I want to do is adjust it at the core. And what I have so far is this 25. It's being multiplied by those values, the weight of the turn. So if it's not turning fully yet, it has that as a weight that's being implemented into it. And then we have the frames per second that is divided by. So we're doing our turn speed based on all of those pieces. So I'm going to try turning this up to 40 to begin with. I really want it to make, I want the middle to be a pretty good speed to begin with. And if you're running, let's go 70. I may not want it to go twice the speed when we turn, but we'll see how it does with those values. Got to kind of adjust the middle value before you can adjust the other values around it. Once we get this stuff in place, then we'll make the mouse sensitivity work right. But until we have this set with the keyboards where they're more on or off kind of feel to it, like here. Okay, that's actually pretty good. If I turn, that's actually pretty fluid, and I can turn and rotate at the same time. I can go forward and backwards. I can go, so I have quite a bit of control over the turn now. That's not bad for an average turn. And that's on the low end. That's, like I said, that's the medium value. Then from there, because that's the medium value, that means I can go as fast as this, which I'm going to go a full circle just to show. How many steps did that take? Okay, I'm going to put it right on there, and I want to count the animation steps that he does to go in a full circle. Okay, so about right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About 4.5 to 5. That's actually not bad, because then when I do it, I'm basically turning 90 degrees with one animation rotation. That's not too bad. Okay, I kind of like the feel of that. That could be my halfway. That could be my halfway point, which in this case is almost twice as much as that I currently set it. But then if you want small angular sensitivity, well, you can always stop it. That's not a big deal because it starts off with the weighted animations. Okay, trying to get the right look and feel. Let me go with 70 as a base and change these to 120 just to see what happens. See how it feels. I'm trying to keep them kind of in proportion to each other. We'll get the animation speed here afterwards looking right, but I just want it to feel right. And this one is less sensitive. The other one, the forward and backwards motion, we had quite a few because we strafed sideways, and that could be a completely different animation that takes you a different speed or something. So I really wanted to make sure that this one feels like we're doing it. That's not too bad. That's like that's actually a pretty good feel to it. So if I'm rotating, coming around, and we stop. Yeah, that actually feels pretty smooth. And finally, if I take that and I'm standing next to something and I turn around, yeah, it kind of feels like the ground isn't sliding so much. Now if I hold the button down and rotate, whoa, he's really moving. That's kind of funny. The animation sped up too. I think I got the animation to go faster. Or is it just because of the speed I did that? I did not implement the animation to go faster yet.
Okay.
That is very interesting. Well, the animation is going fast because of this. No, it isn't. Animation weight is 1. It's going the speed of the animation by default. Gotta think about that one. Okay, we'll mess with those values and see what it actually does. Yeah, we may tweak that one just a little bit. Okay, so then if my turning is like this, and that's at that speed, the next part is I don't think I set anything yet. Of course we haven't. We need to work on what's going to make it turn animation speed. So when I turn this up, I should be able to, tweak how fast he's actually taking the steps. So let's see what we can do about that. Start with turn animation speed in the middle. So we're somewhere near the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect, but anything near there. Okay, and now we're going to take this line from right here, which is the exact same thing we want to do, and we're going to give it the turn animation speed. And also when I turn left and right, that's one thing, but when I turn, I think the speed ratio already for running is faster than this. I almost bet it is. So what I need to do for the turn left and right, if I'm going to do and take control of these settings, then what I need to do is I need to add a factor. And I'm going to say the turn speed times 1.5. We'll mess around with that value. That may not feel like a great constant at the moment, but we're gonna go ahead and do something with that. Okay, let's load it up and take it for a spin, literally. Crack myself up. Did you hear my pun? Okay, let's stay closer to the chair just so I have something to work with. Let's set the starting position. I don't want to keep walking up on it every time I do it, even though that's part of this tool. Okay, so this is the normal speed, and it's doing fairly well. That's pretty good. Okay, and fast. Notice he's turning his feet faster now. That's a good sign. How did that feel? Was that... That's not too bad, actually. Okay, now to really test it out, movement speed, I'm going to change the turn animation speed. Let's go up all the way. I want to see his feet moving. Okay, so when I rotate, yeah, he's moving his feet now. Turning speed is the same as it was before, but now he's really moving his feet fast. In fact, when I do it, oh, look how fast he goes when I hold down the shift key. Okay, so we're getting pretty good with this stuff. Okay, drop it back down. Let's go for some real slow stuff just to see the difference. And see his feet are barely moving. Yeah, that's too slow personally for me, but depends on your animations. Whatever you have, you're able to adjust the turn and the speed sensitivity now. But the one thing is, I really made it where every step goes a lot farther now. Before it was small, now you can adjust it. Really it's not that hard to fine tune and get it to right where you want them to aim. So, yeah, that won't be a problem. I think that's pretty good. Let's walk around the chair just to do it, and I'm going to spin around here, and then I'm going to walk forward, and I'm going to turn and walk while at the same time. And let's see what we get. Okay, if I take it with it on the side, and I go forward and left at the same time, here we go. We're going to go for a full circle. That's not too bad. It's actually doing pretty good for distance. And we did end up in the exact same spot we started, which is a good sign. Yay! Woo, 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 woo. Okay, so we made some adjustments there. Now the real little test here is when I turn... Okay, actually, it's already started to feel better on the left and right because I made it rotate faster. So that in itself is helping out. And the one that I still need to kind of adjust here is turn animation speed, so that would be left and right. And so then this sensitivity is going to be the pan rotation speed. I want to see how it pans the view. So we kind of combine that with left and right. That's already doing its thing. But if you were to adjust it, do I want that comprehensively locking into the left and right also, or just the up and down? I think we need to rework the up and down because it's just a camera view that changes, and I don't think we have some flaws. For example, if I look up, once I get to a certain amount, it doesn't let me go any higher, so I can't look directly up above me. Kind of limits the rotation direction there. And that actually is a function of the camera, because the camera anymore, if I rotate it any farther, it goes underground because of the distance I am away from the user. So to go any farther straight up, I kind of need to rotate and tuck inward, so I'm shortening that distance so that it can look up. But also, I don't want to end up looking up inside of the character. I need to look up above the character as you get closer. So it may need to be a view from behind the person, but until I get the cameras all worked out and in place, that one isn't going to, that's not going to be too friendly on that. So I'm going to hold off on this pan rotation speed just yet, and we're going to hit that when we actually do the cameras, when we work with the cameras. We'll do a full day on that by itself, because we definitely need to make it where it's a little friendlier for up and down. I mean, this is working and moving, but it's not perfect yet. And as we work on different things and revisit them, I like to make it as perfect as we can get away with it. Okay, so in the common area here, one of the things we did was we have these sections where we're telling it to load the different pieces. I no longer need it to log it to the screen. We are setting those settings and they are working as expected. That's a great sign. So now we've implemented those pieces, and like I said, we'll revisit the camera rotation speeds when we visit the camera on another day. But in the meantime, that was a good session. I think we've got those pieces working. Oh, one thing I wanted to add. Before we go, there is the avatar menu itself. Well, let me think about that one. I don't want you to necessarily jump to the avatar movement from the avatar menu. Here's the deal. When you're setting up and you're first choosing and editing your avatar, you have these different options. And so you can set the colors of your avatar. You can change which avatar you're using. You can change your animations. The last one would be change movement speeds, but I don't want to jump them from here, because if I take you away from that session, you may not finish configuring your avatar because you'll end up in a different area of the menu. I'm going to hold it to that for now, even though I do some of this and then I bounce it back afterwards. Well, that's just expanding those sections. I don't want to make the avatar movement one of these sections, and I don't want to leave this menu until you're done configuring your avatar. So it would make more sense. Close the avatar settings. Now there is a menu, just so you know. WalkTheWeb help. Okay, that's not it. There is the contact WalkTheWeb screen. No, that's on this page too. I'm getting there. I don't. How often do you go to help on your own program? Common questions, movement controls. Okay, so this gets you the controls. It tells you where they are, and it has touch controls. It has camera views. This would actually be a better place that pops up afterwards when you do your movement controls. That you could adjust the speed, the movement speed. That would be good, because I show you how to do the touch controls and different things here, and we could add a link here to do it. Okay, I'll have to think about that one. That's just another alternative of where we might put a menu option telling you, once you finish the other things, hey, here's how you move, but then you can also adjust the movement speeds. Yeah. Okay. We'll get there. Okay, well, that concludes this session. We were able to mess around with our avatar. We now have some really cool new functions. We've made it where he can move and turn a lot faster. But also the most important part is you now have control over how fast he turns. And so that makes it a lot freer and a lot better controls. It feels a lot better when I use these controls. I'm actually turning more up to speed of what I want him to do, what I would expect him to do if I'm just like trying to walk around something. Feels a lot better. So I think we made some great improvements. Watch for that. I will be uploading this to the GitHub site so you can get the latest changes and updates and see if we can make that a lot friendlier for everyone. So thanks for joining me, and I want to, thank you every single time, and definitely another good session. But thanks for tuning in. And have a great day, and I'll be back on again tomorrow.